Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to yet another episode of Rise to More. I am so incredibly excited to today, again, on this new rebrand, bring you an incredible quiet force of our wonderful state. Today with me, I have Nick Engbloom. Thank you so much for being here with us and for coming onto the podcast, Nick.
Honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So a little bit about Nick for our wonderful audience. Nick is such an incredible, like I mentioned, a quiet force. He's a legendary fundraiser, an incredible legacy maker, and a name behind some of the biggest fundraising movements in our state, like Wine Fest and Fashion Fest, which is really incredible. But his work actually goes beyond the numbers. It's actually really deeply personal. And you started out, some of your journey started out with your brother in the Special Olympics, and all of the work that you have done in our community. You really take the numbers and you take the relationships and you make them deeply personal. You're also just been named 40 under 40 in our state. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you really head up the fundraising at the University of Minnesota Foundation, which is such an incredible role now for 13 years.
I've been there for 13. I like to say I headed up, but there's so many leaders above me that have laid the groundwork. I just like to think I'm part of an amazing team. So thank you for that. But yeah, you gave me goosebumps thinking about my brother and where we've come and how we've gotten to where we're at. And it really has to start somewhere. So thanks for bringing that up.
I love that. Well, that's what all really great, wonderful visionaries say. It's like it's always about other people. Take a note, folks. So let's start there. Tell us a little bit about, I was really fascinated that sometimes it's our personal stories that shape who we are. And that became maybe a beginning of a movement or a change maker of you because of a personal story.
Yeah, I think thinking about this way back, and now I'm 39, thinking about where I've come from, and it really started with my family and my father and my mother always telling me, your brother has Down syndrome, and there are things that he won't be able to do or be able to be involved with because of that. And I remember that from a young age, but you are going to be his voice, his eyes, and take care of him to make sure that he is always put in a place of power. And whether it was at a pool and if he's getting made fun of, that you stick up for your brother. If your brother needs help ordering food or, making sure that he's getting to the bathroom and getting out of the bathroom, that you are there for him, right? And during that time, you're being taught to look out for others. And as a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, you're really not taking that in. And as you grow, whether it's in grade school and high school, as you grow in your life progression, you start to realize that was your parents setting you up for what was to come. And I remember my dad always saying to me as I grew up, like, you are the oldest in the family because your brother Eric has Down syndrome and he won't be able to do some of the things that you can. So look out for your family. Look out for those that don't have resources. Take care of those that are underserved and underprivileged, and be the voice for them. Make sure that you know that though you might not have every resource available to you, go find those resources and give them to those that don't have it. And I carry that with me, and we go through college, we go to high school, and we have that. We all do. I played sports, and I was like, I'm going to go be a CEO of a company. It's all for me, and I'm going to do these things for me. And I think it really hit me in 2008 when the market crashed and there were no jobs out there. And I remember working for an on-campus charity for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and they said, would you help us with our marketing efforts for Up Till Dawn? And realized this is my calling, knowing that I have a brother with Down syndrome. And I involved myself in Special Olympics all these years and helped be part of a Down syndrome camp as a counselor. And I was being tested through all of these moments in life to know that nonprofits are maybe where I need to go, right? With a degree in management and communication, the job in the corporate sector wasn't there for me. And so St. Jude kept kind of knocking on my door. And when the market crashed, there were no jobs to be had, but St. Jude kept asking, do you want this role? We want you to work for us. It'd be awesome to have you involved. And I took a jump and worked for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and worked in the Minnesota area, the market, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, raising money for children that have catastrophic cancer diseases. And, obviously the hospital's in Memphis, Tennessee, but watching a community rally around a hospital not located in Minnesota really got me to thinking, I think my time needs to be focused on this community and what we can do locally. And, here I am now, and I love that you called it quiet forest, because I'm definitely not quiet around the house but in this community, it's not about me. It's about our collective coming together to do good with each other. And I think that's really important. And I know we've got a lot to talk about, but it all started at a young age when your parents can lay the groundwork for something that you didn't see right away. And then when you step back 39 years and go, I get it. It makes sense why my mom and dad told me to do these things at the time, because there's so much more out there that need help, that need resources, that need a platform, and I want to be able to help them, right? And that's where I am today.
Do you often believe in sort of a destiny, that was your dharma, so to speak, that you were placed in that position because it was perfectly orchestrated for you, that only you could be this legendary force that you are?
I appreciate the legendary force stuff again. And, I think more and more I look at things that are presented to me, and I do think there's times where I'm like, I need to do this for the greater good, right? When I take everything out of the equation, salary and pay and accolades, none of that matters. What matters most is taking a look across the aisle, knowing that that person's life could have been changed because of you making a difference, or you asking, how can I help you? Or what do you need? And I think in today's world, there's not enough of that. A lot of it is very much inclusive of what I need out of it and not what we need out of it. And so back to your point, I think my calling has always been to support those that don't have voices, or find ways to make connections so that everybody has a chance to win. So I'm happy where I'm at. I love to be doing this.
Well, you've just really summarized the entire mission of this podcast, which is the whole point. And when we rise to more, we talked about a little bit earlier, that is how we not only feed ourselves because we live out our purpose, but actually we bring so much goodness to the people around us, which I believe is the whole point of us being here. I think that altruism, I always say, is the most selfish thing in the world because it makes you feel so incredibly good. And I think if we're all driven that, we're better off. But I do want to go back to is, the greats really do have this tendency of like, just, especially when we're doing good in the community. Well, I don't want to be called a force or a legendary or things like that. You were just named 40 under 40, which is like one of the huge honor and award in the state of Minnesota. You do understand that there's something really different about you that's really, really special, that you are remarkable. I hope that you can understand how much power and you carry with the personality and the role that you have been given.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, and I think that makes it even more important to help as much as I can, right? If that's really how people see that, and again, I know my faults. I know when I'm too much, and I know when I and being, taking more than and then giving. And so I call out my faults all the time, and I know I can be better all the time. But going back to that legendary force, that means that it's my job then to make sure that people have opportunities that necessarily might not exist. And so it's my job then to make sure that they're aware of those and to use that to help people and help this community. I'm going to go back to that all the time, right? Whether there's a personal gain there or not, that is not why I'm in it. I'm in it because if we do this together, again, we all win in this community. And it's not just in the state of Minnesota. It can be a ripple effect, right? You ride that wave, and hopefully it carries on to the into the Wisconsins and the Iowas and the North Dakotas, because every person that you can impact will share that on to the next person that they know, to the next person they know, which then we all can then say collectively we did something good for each other. So going back to the legendary force, I appreciate that, and I take that with a huge, heavy heart. That is amazing, and I appreciate that people see that. But then I know that I got to do more.
Oh, I am so glad that you are here, and I really am, because we're going to have so much fun. If I say you know whose you are, do you know what I mean by that?
I think I do. I know whose I am. Is that what you want me to say? Yes.
I think that I remember reaching a certain age and thinking up to a certain point, it becomes like, well, I really want to succeed. I want to achieve. And then it's like, I really want the God or source or universe to work through me so I can be of service to others. And I feel like if the more I do that, the more I'm blessed. And I think when we understand that it's really not about the personal gain, we get everything that we normally would be striving for. So I'm just incredibly happy that you're here. you have done achieved, I think, the feats. So I've been, been aware of the wine fest, the fashion fest. You are quite the personality in the community. You have the involvement with Special Olympics. You've done so many different things, raised millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. What are you most proud of today, Nick?
I'm most proud of a community of people that want to make a huge difference, whether it's giving time, talents, or money, that they found a space, a place, or a movement that matters to them. And if I was a small piece of that, which many times it was an ask for them to sponsor a space at Masonic Children's Hospital, or join a fundraising initiative, or sponsor an event, every single person that was involved in one of those movements is what I'm most proud of, because we've created this community of friends, right? Friends, we call it, there's this funny phrase we use sometimes as we start to develop these really close relationships with donors and partners. I think many times it can become a transaction where, here we go again, we're just going to ask for gifts, and it's just another knock on my door asking me to give. And we call that fundraising. And I want to call out my former boss, who just retired this year, Elizabeth Patty, and she always had this thing with us, like, these are friends, so we're going to friend raise, right? We're friend raising in this community, because these individuals that start to give really open up about their lives and what they've gone through, and you start to see things with them and not through them. And that's when you start to really come together and do great things together, for whether it's the Children's Hospital or working with Special Olympics on these national games that are coming to town, which we will talk about in a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's a movement of inclusivity, a movement of giving, a movement of support that far outweighs any cash gift that you can ever make. Because when you make a movement, when you create a movement, you start to see things, like you said, the cup fills, and that cup just spills over and spills over and spills over, to the point of where asking for things isn't something that becomes cumbersome. It becomes super enjoyable. You get enjoyment out of it, because what you're asking for is not something that you started. It's a group of people that said, Nick and I and this person are doing this together. Do you want to join? And they're like, I want to be part of that. And it's so cool. It's so fun.
Well, you're giving them an opportunity for a meaningful contribution for, people. One thing that I've really learned is that people want to be involved. They want to be asked.
Yes.
And if, they can always say no, but they're honored when they're asked, and especially if they have means. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I'm really curious. Out of the friend raising, I love that. That's a beautiful way of saying it, because the intention behind it is very different. You've raised over $100 million. And again, I know I have a lot of friends in fundraising, and I know that it actually can be very challenging. You've been an innovator in the space. What is it about approaching people who are incredibly wealthy as you're fundraising? How do you approach them? Because you do things differently. We all know that. And what have you learned? What are some of your favorite stories in the process of doing so?
Yeah, I think innovative can be every year something different, right? Everything changes every year, but the innovative approach is always that we came into this world as humans first. And so if we treat everybody with the same respect of being a human being, rather than thinking that you're a multimillionaire that lives here and I'm a fundraiser, you immediately draw that line in the sand, or you put the wall up, right? And so if you approach this in the way of being like, I'm human, you're human, I love that you have 2 kids and you go to this school and your family, you were raised here, you start off having conversations about life and not about wealth. And I think that's always been one of my key pieces, is how do we have a conversation about each other before we start talking about each other's wealth, giving, pocketbooks. None of that matters, because at the end of the day, we're going to find out real fast if we're going to gel. And when I say gel, it means like if you and I get along from a personal standpoint, because I want to be friends with you too. At the end of the day, I want to have a relationship and not just talk about your gifts and your donations. So as Masonic Children's Hospital, when I joined, it was just built, and it was basically a white canvas. And using the model of St. Jude, where you have all these beautiful spaces with company names and athlete names and Tiger Woods this and Shaun White libraries and the Memphis Grizzlies house. I just remember sitting down with my boss and Christy Flanagan, who also is a key partner in all of this, and my current boss. being like, we can do the St. Jude of the Midwest here in Minnesota, but we have to go into the communities and we have to show them that we're here and that we have a great facility that saves lives, right? And each space was so uniquely put together. And what I'll say about this is all those spaces took time rather than rushing to find a donor to slap a name on it. There were times where we were denied numerous times. And I'm not going to name names out there, national brands and companies that said they were going to do something that backed out, that put us in situations that allowed us to meet people to like, hey, Kaya Rudolph, I'd love to be Kaya Rudolph coming to me saying my brother had cancer. And obviously he was a professional football player and we built this space with him, but it didn't start with him being the main donor. It started with somebody else who said, I'm in, and then backed out. And then sitting down with Kyle and saying, screw it, let's go do this. We can go raise $3 million and it's going to start with your gift first. As an athlete, you're going to put the money down to show this community that you're in it. You're invested in the space and you're the first donor. And then it was 25 donors after that saying, I'm in, I'll name the kitchen and I'll name that space and I'll name that space because I know that Kyle's in this for the right reasons and this has become a community, right? And we kept doing that. And community people, community individuals, companies, startups were like, I want to do that space next with that person, or I want to do that space. And it became a movement and not just I'm looking for the wealthiest people in town to slap their name on something.
They volunteered because they wanted to be part of something really meaningful and really cool, and you created that. So when you do have to approach people, there's not a movement, because people who are listening to this are great visionaries and in our community, and they're wanting to do big things. Sometimes starting from scratch can be really hard. How do you approach someone that you don't know and ask for a big ask? Not necessarily money, but a partnership, an opportunity, a mentorship, anything like that, that would almost guarantee a yes. That's one of my favorite things to do, by the way, is connect with people and truly connect. And I think I don't ever struggle with that, but a lot of people do. So would you give us your magical...
Is that going to give away the secret sauce? So when I say these things, I still want people I want to work with people all the time. I love connecting. And at the end of the day, like, I think the biggest thing is I try to find relationships that, so for instance, if you and I have mutual friends and I realize they own a business and I feel like that business has an opportunity to connect with partners that I know in this community that can help them, my relationship outreach would be, I know you're friends of XYZ person. I have this business that I work with that is looking for a brand just like yours. Can I connect you to, but why don't we get together first so I can kind of give you this vision? And we sit down and have a conversation. And from that moment, what would have been a one-time relationship opportunity turns into 5 more connections that we learned about that they needed help with, or they have relationships too, which then opens up this, hey, Nick, you never said anything that you want from this. And that's when the sauce starts to work, because I'm not there to ask for stuff. And again, they will give. It will come full circle, right? And I always tell people it's kind of backwards on how people ask for money. But I think if development professionals, and everyone is so amazing and everyone has their sauce, right? The sauce is how we all can find ways to work together that make sense for that specific cause or that specific initiative. And my sauce is, you're going to gain more from relationships that I hold in this community that are looking for people like you, where you two are going to win so big right away, right? Or I hope that you two create a relationship and you take me off a text chain, and next thing you know is I see you popping up in a business article about a relationship or a partnership or a business transaction. And then that comes back in a couple of years. I would say things work out for the right reasons, for the right people at the right times, right? Those people come back and say, hey, I remember having a conversation with you about XYZ. Do you still need resources for that? Because we're ready to help you. And at the time, they may not have been ready to help because they weren't financially ready, or they were just in a startup stage of raising money for Series A, B, C. And then, you hear that they sell their business, and you never go back and say like, oh, now that you sold, looking for that. But they'll come back to you and say, I saw this in the news and realized you have a mental health, need, and there's spaces that are needing to be named or needing to be refreshed. Can I help you with that? And that's when you start to realize all of this does come full circle. And if we do this right, everyone wins.
So you're a connector and a giver, a big time.
I think that's how I like to, that's important to me.
I think that it's an interesting thing. I feel sometimes I'm a little bit of a dinosaur right now and in going to networking events, and it becomes really apparent I like to ask a lot of questions, right? And I like to really get to know the people. And I'm always one of the first things and the last things I will say, how may I be of service? And I've noticed that very few people actually do that, but you do. It is the secret sauce. The secret sauce is being a genuinely good human, connecting others and providing value wherever you can, because we all can provide immense value. And then when we do, people really genuinely love us, appreciate us, and they want to do good for us too. And I think that that is, I have never, ever heard anyone say it in a more beautiful way.
Well, thank you. And again, going back to the faults and the flaws, like I know I have them and I want to give. And many times I need to be better about getting back to people and communicating, because I know everyone wants something at some point, and I'm working through those to make sure that I can be efficient, but also know that like it will happen for the right reasons. And, I'm working through things where I want to help this person and that person and that person. And it's like, maybe it's not the right time, or the email that I sent was probably too quick and should have waited a little bit on that. And now I got to figure out how I can really make this make sense. So we learn though. We live and we have to learn. We have to make mistakes. We have to stumble along the way. But I know at the deepest part of who I am and the root of who I am is I just want to be there helping people, and know that if I can make one connection, that's all I want to have happen.
And it's really relationships. I mean, it's for everyone listening right now, what they can really take in is that if you're really struggling in terms of asking for anything, you need something, first find a way to give.
Yes.
Be of service, be of value, because no matter who you are, what you do, if you approach it with how may I be of service, it really does change.
Yes.
Is there in all of the fundraising, is there a story with a particular donor that really stands out, that was either very difficult to navigate, or that was like that completely blew you away, or something that really stands out in this entire career of fundraising?
It is such a amazing question. Like, back to the point, like if I could write a book,
You will.
I want to, and just talk about all the fun stories of the people that come into your lives and change you. You take a piece of them and they take a piece of you, and you're wearing something of them forever in your heart, on your soul, on your sleeve. So I've had so many unbelievable stories, from the Blythe Brendans of the world to the Brian and Annette Calls to my favorite athletes that have given. But I always have to go back to how I met my wife. This is great. You ready for this?
I love it.
So it involves philanthropy, right? And I think, again, for the right reasons, at the right time. I had just gotten through a relationship. I had this new job. I'm like, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be present, and I'm going to do it. Right. So I'm attacking the corporate sector, getting people involved on tours every day at that hospital. Exposure, awareness. And Procter & Gamble, who was a huge partner of ours, providing these amazing toiletry kits, things that people don't think our hospitals need. It's not always money. It's the everyday grind that these families go through. They're there from a week to 3 years waiting for heart transplants, cancer treatments, and they leave everything behind to take care of their child, who is either going to survive and thrive or unexpectedly pass away. And we want to make their life so much easier, their stay that much more comfortable, and it takes partners to do that. And some of the simplest ways were toiletry kits for families that move from all over the world to come to Minnesota to be seen at our hospital for a transplant, or for a heart procedure. They don't have a toothbrush, a shaver. They don't have deodorant. And to be able to walk up to their room, child life specialist, to be able to say, don't worry about that stuff. This is a bag from our friends at Target and Procter & Gamble. Imagine what the family's mindset changes from, I can't believe I forgot this, I'm stuck in this hospital, to people care about us. And it's day one, right? So Procter & Gamble would invite all of the divisions, D49, they'd have them come in, which is, the deodorants and the Old Spices, and you get these awesome volunteers from Target come into your hospital, and Procter & Gamble's got all this amazing product. Like, all right, folks, here we go. And I'm telling them, we're going to put toiletry kits together, and this is why they're important. And you tell these amazing companies why their gift matters, right? It's not just about the cash, it's about the products and why our kids and families need it. And, in these tours, as a single man, you're like, wow, there's some really attractive business professionals here. And you kind of start to, talk to them, ask why they're there. And of course, I'm going to give my tour. So I put the group that I want to give the tour to in my group, and then my boss takes the other group, and she's always like, interesting that you had all these
ladies,
young women in your group, right? And so we go on this tour, and I knew that I'm not saying I was going to get a date out of it or anything, but it was like I felt like I was on that day and I was hitting all the right notes and buttons and hitting this thing and talking about that thing. But it was real. Like, it's the real tour that we gave. And I strategically was like, if anybody's interested in volunteering, feel free to come up to me after this tour and grab my business card.
And she did.
And I had a couple come up, and she actually followed up with me and asked me out for a date. And we've been now married. We'll be married 10 years in July, dating for all 13 years that I've worked at the hospital. And we met at the Children's Hospital, and it's Masonic Children's Hospital. We didn't know all of this. Again, I'm going on tangents because I'm a talker, I'm Italian, so sorry. But our son's name is Mason, and we never planned that the hospital's name is Masonic Children's Hospital, but our son, our firstborn's name is Mason. And we had a moment where, like, do you know that, like, we met at the hospital and our son's name is Mason and the name of the hospital is Masonic Children's Hospital.
Unbelievable.
So things like that bring people together at the right time is just powerful. And that's the woman I'm spending the rest of my life with and have 2 kids with. And we met at the hospital I fundraised for, and I'm still fundraising for that hospital today, which is really cool.
That is such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's again, when I call it, I talk about it, write about it in my book, the sense of coherence. When you do the things that are right, it's terms in physics that the things align. There's chaos, chaotic waves, or coherent waves or incoherent waves. And when we align with who we are and we actually really know ourselves well and we know our mission, things start to fall into place in such a beautiful way. So I think that was a very resonant, coherent moment for you and your wife.
Yeah,
for
thank
both
you.
of
Yeah.
you.
You know, I can tell a lot of stories about patients that have lost their lives where I've spent the last moments with them, with professional athletes, bringing jerseys in and being with families. And, you know, I think those moments will stick with me forever, but I've really locked those away as times of my professional life that I know that I was part of something special in a moment with the family that we had given them a little bit more time, or a moment with an athlete that they never would have had. And so the fundraising side of it is secondary to what we've been able to do with patients and families and giving them a second chance or a moment to live for 3 more months and get to meet their idols, right? That there's nothing that can ever replace that in the work that I do.
Oh gosh, Nick, you're doing God's work.
Oh, no.
No,
I mean, I
really,
appreciate
when you
that,
think
but
about
yeah.
what that does at that point, it's really not about anything material. It's about meaning and the sense of joy in the moments of such trauma and such difficulty. And you do that so beautifully.
But then there's an army, because if I'm doing God's work, think about our nurses and our doctors and all the
Absolutely.
development staff that do the same thing every day. So God has this, if I'm doing God's work, we've got an army at what we do. And
Without a doubt.
there's nobody more that I would want to link my arms with it than anybody that is part of that hospital system.
You said something when we were at the beginning of the conversation, you know, we need more of that.
Yeah.
We need more. And in the world right now, there is a palpable anxiousness and uncertainty about the future and me. I really do need more of that. And one of the things that one of the many reasons, but one of them why I'm so excited that you're here is that people really get to be reminded of, gosh, we're all able to be change makers, and look at the impact that one person can do when he locks arms with others, with other angels, I believe, in the community. So I'm just really excited that you're here.
I truly believe in that. I think, you know, there's always ebbs and flows in this world, and we have to unite as a collective superpower that is the human race, right? And we just work together to do good for each other and for those that don't have the resources, and the good things come, right? And right now my focus is just giving back. Give whatever I have, find ways to give, and if I can't give my energy and resources and help any way I can, right? That's what this is all about. Unite, right? Let's all lock arms together and find ways to lift things up that need to be lifted.
Well, not everyone does, so that's why I'm excited that you're here. We need to. I think the more we hear that, the more we are encouraged to do it. I keep looking at your shirt because I was fortunate enough to be given a Wheaties box. It's in my office behind me. I'm like, Mom, I'm on a Wheaties box. So please do tell me the meaning behind the jacket.
Okay, so here's the thing. Growing up, I loved sports and was a really big Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr. I was in that era in the 90s, right? So the shoes, I love Air Jordan, so I have got a lot of them. And I have a great friend in town who owns a business called Studio 23. His name is Mo Obama. He's a wonderful person, and he has all these exclusive Nike things, but mainly Air Jordan. So I, obviously growing up loving Jordan, have my shoes, and so I wear my Air Jordans all the time. And when I live auctioneer, I always wear Air Jordans. And I started to realize, like, I just love cool bombers. And I've got a Nike one, I've got a bunch of them, and I saw this, and I was like, I loved Wheaties. I always wanted to be on the front of a Wheaties box, right? Thinking, when you're growing up, you're eating the Wheaties, like, someday that can be me. And, strive and aspire to be the next Ken Griffey Jr., Michael Jordan, Kirby Puckett. That's what I grew up doing. So when I saw this jacket, I'm like, this is a cool jacket. But two, I was like, I just remember those days of eating the Wheaties, putting too much sugar on it because it was just Wheaties. And it's now stuck. I go places and it's like, oh, do you work for General Mills? Because it says General Mills up here.
I know.
But I live in Minnesota. It's just a cool jacket.
It is a cool, this is really better. So General Mills, I know there's a few execs listening to this podcast. I think we need to put Nick's face on a Wheaties box.
I love it.
So I'm just going to leave it there.
That's cool. Well, thank you. No, and
I think that would be a really cool thing to do.
Love our local brands, love our local companies. Like, any way we can support them and show when I'm traveling, like, I bring this jacket everywhere I go. And if I'm going out for, a meeting, this is my brand. This is what I wear. I try to put some more color in my life. My wife's like, you got to have more blues and grays
color
and greens.
As long as it's black, Nick.
I'm all black and I love it, right? Because then I can have these cool pieces that really can be
stand
shown.
out. I absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I love it.
So the beautiful tidbit about you is that you're an auctioneer, and I heard you albeit on video. And I just kept thinking, how does anyone do that? How did you get started in that? And how on earth do you actually do it?
I'm a fast talker already. I'm slowed down a little bit for this, but if you get me going on my coffee in the morning and I get into meetings, I can start going. And I go to a lot of events. We have a lot of events, and we have this amazing auctioneer that I work with who would just show me some of the ropes. And he was just like, you have to really lean into the crowd, lean into your voice and just go with it, right? And there was some years there where I kind of just filled in and helped out some charities for free, specifically that supported our hospital. And I gave my resources, and they're like, wow, you have a different energy. Like, you get into the crowd and you talk and you know people by their name and you call them out by their name for giving, and you're high-fiving and you're doing all these things. That energy is people want more of that. And COVID hit, and I was just like, I just kind of want to have this really fun auctioneering business where I can just kind of do it on the side and at night and on weekends. Never interferes with my everyday job because that's priority number one for me.
Of course.
And it just started to turn into a referral ripple effect as becoming the auction crasher. I was at an event once, and a partner was like, I need you to come up on stage and auction my item off. I'm like, I feel weird doing that. He's like, I'm asking you to do that for me right now. So I went up there and we raised, I think it was $10,000 for the parlor food truck. And from that day on, he's like, you like literally crashed the live auction. It's like Wedding Crashers, the movie. I was like, oh my gosh, I could call myself the auction crasher. And that's how the business started. And it's been really fun to be part of so many spectacular charities, helping bring energy to the crowd. And there's so many great auctioneers in Minnesota, so I'm not taking anything away from them. But back to the point, I know what I can do, and I know when I get going. And I had an event last night with Miss Shannon, who's unbelievable. We had so much fun in that room, this small, mighty room for this awesome charity. And I walked out of that room with goosebumps watching people raise their hands during a time when money is tight and people didn't care, they gave. And it wasn't because of me or Miss Shannon. It's because if we can bring energy together, the sky's the limit. And it was so, I was ready to do another event after that. I was ready to go.
Look at you. Would you give me a flavor?
What are we going to auction off?
I don't know. You have to use Rise to More.
So
somehow.
We could do a one-time experience. I'm going to present the auction package. You get a one-time experience to be in this awesome podcast called Rise to More. We don't say this, but we have to. It is a priceless package. But if it was worth anything, I'd say $10,000. So, ladies and gentlemen, who's giving me 3? I'm looking for 3. I got 3,000 here. I got 3,500. I got 35 over there. I got 4. I'm looking for 4. Got it. Now I need 45. Got you at 45. Got you at 5. Got you at 7. Yes, now I got you at 8,000. Yes, how about you at 9? Yes, got 9. Can we do 10? Yes, we got 10. How about 10,005? We got to go down to 10. Got it. 10,005 down to 11. We got 11 going once. Ladies and gentlemen, $11,000. Got it. Going twice. I got you at 11. Nope, you outbid yourself twice. Don't do it again. Anybody at 11.5, sold for $11,000 to go on Rise for More. Here we go. Rise to More. Love it. That's what it is.
Oh my God, that was so good. That's absolutely
Now you get a
incredible.
microphone, you put it right here, and I am right up in
You're
there.
ready to go. So I really, as I watched you, as you know, I prepare for these, and I watched so many videos of you. I feel like I actually really know you. It's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you watch someone, you feel like people feel like they really know celebrities because they watch them from afar. But you alluded to it a little bit earlier. You do have this incredibly magnetic energy that I feel like being privy to right now. Do you think that you have to work at that, or is that just, when did you figure out that there was something really unique about you?
Growing up, so going back to my family, like I love my parents so much, and my mom is an amazing caregiver and was always so amazing for us. It was my dad who really kind of set me to who I am today. A very strong personality, was a radio voice, ran the comedy gallery in Minnesota with Scott Hansen. I grew up watching entertainment, worked for Treasure Island Booking Entertainment. He was one of the first bookers, so he filled their ballroom with chairs and had Jay Leno do the first ever stand-up show. And now we have casino shows all over Minnesota, right? So I watched him and I just looked up to his like charisma and his not willingness to say no to things, and then meeting celebrities and not being shy. Like he had it, right? And I remember he was like, if you're going to be in sports, you're going to take a musical, you're going to play a musical instrument, you're going to be in arts, so learn to draw, learn to paint, and you're also going to get into drama arts. And I was like, okay, we're going to do these things. So if you're going to play all your sports and be an athlete, you need to be fully faceted in everything else. So the Swiss Army knife is what I like to say. So I was a saxophone player because I love Clarence Clemens from the Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band. I love to draw, so I always do fun things with my kids. So I've got freeform art. I do a lot of stuff like that just for fun. So I took art class, and then I got into drama arts, and man, that really changed who I was, and learning how to be in front of people and know that this is something that I loved doing and I wasn't afraid to do it. Now, would I get butterflies? Absolutely. But when I was up there, I wanted the microphone all the time. And I remember even I was the 5th grade dare speaker for my class. I did the 8th grade graduation ceremony as the keynote. And I remember just sitting in front of every time I would have a presentation, my dad would say to me, don't say like, don't say because it means that you're not thinking about your thoughts. So I'd sit in front of a mirror and I would practice my speeches over and over. And I remember him standing there being like, you said like, you said slow down here, be better here. And it started to give me this presence of, I have confidence and I know I can do this. And it just kept going and going and going. And here I am today. And I love putting myself out there, and I love auctioneering, and I love speaking, and I love being in front of people because I want to sell whatever I'm selling. It's me, right? I want to give you what I've got. So that's who I am.
Nick, man, I'm so happy you're here. I'm telling you, it's like, what a fun conversation. Yeah. Like, what a beautiful story. What an incredible father. All of these different things. You do know that speaking publicly is like number one fear of people in
Yes.
the world. And so it's like when you're born with it, it's like it's a gift that you were given.
Yeah.
And now you're not just using it to have fun. And I think it's a form of self-expression. You become the vine. You become the vessel of something far greater, but you're using it for the good. And it gets me just really, really excited.
I love it.
Let's switch topics a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Special Olympics in 2026 and your involvement with it. And again, yet another huge undertaking that you're a part of. How we all know, you told us a little bit about how you got involved, and I think it was because of your brother. But why take on something so big and so mighty?
We have to. And I would be remiss to say that we have the best leader for these games that anybody could ever ask for in Christy Sovereign. And her team they're packing punches. And I'm telling you right now, the 2026 games, we're less than a year away. They're going to be the best that's ever happened in the country because of her team. And so I give her all the credit for what she's building. Yeah, we've got a ways to go. We need more sponsors. We need more promotion. We need more awareness. And you've got to take a little bit at a time, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. And, what's crazy about this, we all come back around for the right reasons. And when I was introduced to Christy Sovereign, her name didn't ring a bell to me, right? I saw her, I was like, she's big time. Like this, she is a woman leader and a leader that needs to be known, not just here, but nationally. And I was like, I would be honored to even be involved in this Special Olympics games. And I got to meet with her, and I had lunch with her and Kevin, who's running their development. And she was like, I was like, you look so familiar, and it's driving me nuts. And she goes, well, I have a sister with Down syndrome. I'm like, I have a brother with Down syndrome. I'm like, who's your sister? And she's like, my sister's Katie Timmer. And I was like, shut the up. Like, I used to swim with your sister with the Anoka County Cougars for Special Olympics. And I used to help with them with my brother, and she was an unbelievable athlete. She was like the Katie Ledecky of Special Olympics, right? She would swim lengths, and there was nobody competing with her. She was shooting, I'm going to tell you right now, she was like a scratch golfer. And so I would go out and play against her and get my ass handed to me, right? And I was like, that's your sister? I was like, I literally grew up with your sister.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm sitting in front of you hoping that I can be part of this amazing board to make a difference in this town. And she was like, 100%, we want you on. And now it's time to go. Like, we've been going, but now it's time to really make a difference. And she just spoke at First Tuesday just this last month, and her speech to the crowd, and she had a great Special Olympian up there too. But she wanted this crowd to know, like, it is about inclusivity.
Yeah.
We have to make it about everybody being involved. And you've got the Olympics and the Paralympics, but why not the Special Olympics? And we're hearing a lot of no's right now. And I think that's a problem.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of people get caught up on marketing and get caught up on visibility and get caught up on all the things that, yes, do matter for businesses. And I'm not saying they don't. But there are kids out there that don't ever get those resources, don't get jobs. We want to give them jobs. We want them to know that there are resources out there, and Special Olympics is a platform for that. And the more people and the more companies and the more individuals that rally around this means more opportunity for those that necessarily don't have voices.
So what can we do listening to this? What can I personally do? My family? What can everyone listening to this do?
I mean, we've heard there will be 20,000 volunteers that will need to be involved in this. Okay. There will need to be more corporate support. We'll need to make sure that we can fund every single competition. There's a deficit that we're going to get there. We're going to make the money. It's going to happen, right? Yeah. And I'm not involved in the fundraising because that's not my job.
Yep.
But what we need to do is make sure that we're not cutting a sport because they don't have the funding for it, right?
Yeah.
And that's tragic for kids that would be coming from all over the country to compete in one sport. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there will have to be a time if we're not raising the right money or we're not getting the right awareness or we're not getting the right people involved, they have to make decisions, right? We want Minnesota to set the precedence for how Special Olympics should be seen, not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally. Like, those games that happen in Minnesota is what should happen for the future of Special Olympics. It needs to be at the same level as the Olympics. It should
incredible.
Be at that same level.
So where could people go? And we're going to put this in a show link. So either register as a volunteer or contribute
get your company involved.
Yeah.
They're going to have a lot of opportunities to engage. And I know that Christy really wants people to go to the 2026 U.S. Games site, find ways to reach out to them. I just think what a way for our state to rally around a movement. She said movement a lot. This is truly a movement. It's like the Super Bowl, but on steroids, right? Like, we're going to have a week-long competition with kids here that cannot wait to put a medal around their neck for competing in something that they're passionate about, whether it's swimming, football. And I give that team so much credit for positioning our state to have it. We haven't had games here since 1991 when we hosted the international games.
Oh, wow.
And Prince was the performer. That's the level that Minnesota thought about. So it's time to get back to that level for 2026.
Then we have to. I have no doubt that we will. So we're going to make a really special call to action in one of the messaging. I'm really, really excited about that.
And no, it's all 50 states bringing their athletes here. I mean, we're expecting millions of visitors to come here for this, right? The university's campus will be taken over by Special Olympians and companies and individuals. Like, what a time to rally, right?
What I know for sure is Minnesotans do show up.
They do.
And one of the remarkable things, I was just having conversation, we were listed in top 30 happiest cities in the world. We're number 30. Only 2 cities from the U.S. made the list, New York and Minneapolis.
Okay.
And I'm really happy because after 2020 and 2021, there was a really rough patch. But I think the one of the factors involved, or that they looked at, is how involved in the arts and the community people are, and how much we volunteer and how much we give back. If there was a state to make it successful, and it's this one. So I'm really, really excited that you're doing that.
Let's
Thank you
rock and
for
roll.
doing that.
Yes, I
Thank
love it
you.
for sure. No, I mean, just let's make this known that this Special Olympics next year are ones that people will talk about forever. That's the legacy we need to leave, right? That's what it's all about.
It's funny. I wanted to ask you about your own personal legacy. That's coming. It's coming. You are someone that now that I know that I got to when I researching for this, I'm like really excited. I told you I'm excited about talking to Gavin that you're quite the entrepreneur. You are what I would call a Renaissance soul. This drive to do more and to create, and I know that it's not me, but where does it come from you? Because you are multi-passionate, you are involved in multiple projects, and also you build things from nothing, multiple businesses, you're building sort of an empire, all to do good. Where does that drive come from, and what motivates you?
I think things that I like, things that I enjoy, I love our restaurant scene, so I want to be involved in it, right? And I have a concierge service free of charge to anybody that ever wants to use it. I have so many great restaurant owners that I can call in a pinch when an athlete, an individual, a company needs a reservation, and they're like, yes, we want to help. Because if I can help restaurants stay full in Minnesota, it just helps everything flourish, whether it's in downtown Minneapolis, in North Loop, in the west suburbs, in Excelsior, in Wayzata. Exposure to them is important. When there's a company in town for a conference, I want to be called to say, what was that restaurant that we should go to? These are the restaurants you should go to. Can I help you get into them? It's free because I want these restaurants to know it's about them, it's about our community. So that's what drives me is they're going to win, and it's my favorite thing to do is eat great food, right? Drink great wine. That's where I bring in some of my passions and my purposes, and when I combine those two, and I took this from an individual online. It's like that P squared, that P2. You find that balance of passion and purpose, and you have a centered focus on doing good because you're doing things you love to do for other people, right? And that's what it's all about. And so if I can keep doing that, I keep finding things that I can, invest my time and my energy and my resources into because I love doing it, we're all going to win. So things just pop up every now and then. I'm like, I want to be part of that, right? And I want to know how I can be involved. And that's when these entrepreneurial spirits pop in my life where I'm like, yes, that makes sense for me right now.
Okay. Do you ever feel like it's too much?
Sometimes.
Do you ever, yeah. And when it is too much, in terms of, we're battling a huge mental health problems with a lot of the people who are, a lot of millennials that I'm noticing, and the absolute addiction to social media and the phones. So when it is too much, how do you ground, Nick? How do you take care of yourself? And I'm asking because anyone who does so much outwardly with that kind of an energy, and you have a really incredible, powerful energy, there has to be a counter to that, some form of grounding. I know that you have an incredible family. You have two boys and your wife.
A boy and a girl, yep. Mason and Quinn.
A boy and a girl.
Yep, nope,
okay.
Yep. I love this question because I find when I get into the mental block where I could slope downwards, I find friends that I get together with. I go to my fundraising group and we find times to get together. I confide into my wife where we have great conversations in my community. But I will tell you, I lost my father tragically at the age of 56 when I was 26. And he went through a lot to provide for our family to the point where I think what killed him was the drive to just put more for us, more food on the plate, more resources in our pockets, whatever we needed, he gave us. And I look at that every day and go, I can't slow down, and I know what I need to do for my family, but know that if I just take a quick step back and take a trip and just disconnect from everything, right? Or, spend one night with my wife downtown having dinner and just talking about life, that grounds me. It really does. And when I do get into a situation where sometimes I feel like it's too much, I do find the things that make me happy, whether it's the food, it's my kids, it's the music, it's watching a sporting event. Just those small little moments flip my brain to saying, I'm good. I'm ready to rock and roll again, right? And I think in a time where social media and the things that are out there, it's okay to ask for help, one. Two, confide in people that you trust. If you can confide in people that you trust and tell them things that you wouldn't tell anybody else, no, that lifts a heavy weight off of your chest. And I think what happens is we see compounding of that over and over where you don't know who to talk to. Even this conversation right now, like if I go into a mental block in the next few weeks, I can say, like, I had one of the most amazing conversations for 1 hour with you, and it's going to get me into a space where I'm ready to rock again. So I can think back to those moments that might get me, a moment where I might feel stuck. I think about those moments that I had great conversation or had a really awesome time, and that gets me going again.
That's incredible. So you're hacking your own moods. You're able to do that. Very few people have that viewpoint, but you do, because you understand how to put yourself in those situations.
I appreciate the hack. I'm going to use that. I loved that because it is what I'm doing. And I have sought help and I have had conversations with people, but I stay grounded in the fact that I know what I need to do. And I know, like you said, is it a calling? Maybe. Is it a legendary purpose? Maybe. But there are people there that I know that will help me when I need the help. And I can call them, I can ask them for help, and they 100% will be there for me. And I know that's always going to be the sticking point when needed.
Again, back to relationships.
Yes, truly.
The everlasting thread in this conversation is the relationships that really do matter.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. I'm curious, we live in an interesting times right now. I've been talking so much about artificial intelligence because I'm part of some conversations and projects, and I know how much is going to change. And there was a study done with Zennials who said that 65% of them would be happy to marry an humanoid robot. They're making them in very human-like form with all the body parts, and the world is going to really, the world is already changing so much. I'm curious, where do you see the potential and where do you see the downsides from a visionary like yourself, especially in terms of human relationships?
Well, you just took the word right out of my mouth. Human relationships will never be replaced in my eyes. It can't be. There's something that inside our bodies creates an energy that we both are feeling, even having this conversation. You're not going to get that in AI. I don't think it's ever going to happen, right? I will say AI, the efficiency that we get from AI is key. I can spend more time doing less X's and O's and be with my kids or be with an employee that needs it. And so I think AI brings efficiency that we need. That's going to be huge. But we cannot replace that human interaction. AI cannot replace human interaction. It just, in my eyes, I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm with you. There's the aspect of I'm a student of consciousness and quantum physics, and and also spirituality, and some of those things really intersect that we can't explain how. And then the studies show the frequency of the heart can be felt at 9 feet around us. Can machines ever have that? But I did read a few studies in my work. So my marketing director, you met her earlier, she uses ChatGPT as her best friend, her life coach, and her therapist. And she sent me a study that said that they did a blind test, and most people preferred having a therapist that was a robot than a human.
I don't disagree with that either, though. Like, there are times where we've used it to self-diagnose something, and actually the conversation that we got back on ChatGPT was exactly what we were looking for, rather than waiting 3 days to hear back from a professional, right? And so 100% agree with that.
But it had the better bedside manner.
It had a better bedside manner.
That's what I'm saying.
And I didn't have to wait 2 hours to get into the appointment.
Someone connected with them better.
But, and I'm not taking anything away from people that love AI, because I love it too. There's something to be said of the moment I get those goosebumps having a conversation with somebody like you, the heart racing. You might feel that, but looking at that individual, that robot, I know that that's not real. I know that you're real.
Well, are you sure?
I haven't seen a robot at this point, so I'm going to keep going with this human interaction until I get told otherwise.
I love this conversation so much. I alluded a little bit earlier to legacy. One of my favorite questions is Nick, what do you think you want your legacy to be? One that you would want your son to look at you and say, yeah, that's my dad, or
I
your son
always,
and daughter.
yeah, I always tell them take care of those that don't have. It's exactly what my dad told me. Look out for those that necessarily don't have the resources or the things that you might have. But the legacy really is about every person that you touched. I just want to make sure that they knew that I was genuinely there for them and not doing something that felt that was a transaction. So when my kids come to me and they're like, "Daddy's doing this" or "Daddy's doing that," I want them to know that it's out there for the making good happen. And so like if it's my tombstone, which I think I'm gonna be cremated, so I don't want people looking at my body in the casket. I want to say like he did good. That's all I want to say.
He did good. Oh, well, you know what? I look at all the things that you've done already, and I just feel so incredibly honored that you took the time out of your day to come here and talk to me because already you did good, Nick.
Well, thank
And
you.
that's such a beautiful testament to the human that you are. And you're talking about the butterflies or the feel good, the kind of feeling that I'm feeling right now, just absolute gratefulness for someone like you in our community. And that's not very, very common that people show up that way. So thank you for doing that. I
Well,
hope
thank
that you
you.
hear that enough from.
Well, I do. I appreciate that. I guess it would be remiss for me not to say like, what can I do for you?
This is you already. It's so
I love
funny.
it.
My next question is, which is a question that I always everyone. How can I be of service? How can our audience? How can we all be of service? What can we do as we listen to this to really honor the work that you have been doing in all of these special projects?
Yeah, and I know that this is a space where people are from all over listening to this and watching this. And I think what we need to do is look at who you are and how you can make a difference. Find a community that you can rally around, or whether it's your own community, it's your family, and lean in and just say, how can I help? What can I do to be involved? The more times we do that, this is just going to be a much better place that we left it. As we people say, you come into this earth, leave it better than when you saw it. So find ways to get involved. And I don't think people need to be afraid of money. I think it's just find ways to get involved with your time and your talent, your energy, because it takes one smile to change someone's life. It takes one high five, one hug. And next thing you know is you're planning an event and you're making a difference, right? So just reach out, find somebody that needs help, find a charity to rally around, and just know that will make a huge difference, and you'll feel it. And then you're going to want to do more, and that person's going to want to do more, and just find ways to reach out and find more ways to get involved. I think the more we do that, this place is going to be awesome, and it will continue to stay awesome.
How beautifully put. Absolutely beautifully put. Nick, what does rise to more mean to you?
You're asking me, somebody that likes to just add more to his plate. So I'm inspired to figure out what the next step looks like for me, but for our community. So as you say, rise to more. What more out there needs help? What more out there needs resources? And so as I look to rise, it's not me personally. I'm looking out there to say, is it a startup? Is it a brand looking for a charity with Masonic Children's Hospital? Is it somebody that just heard me saying, I want to get involved with Special Olympics? That's me rising up to say, I know how to get you involved with them. They're going to then say, that's the more that we need to give, right? The more that I can say to them, rising up in this moment allows you to get interacted with something that you didn't know have access to. They're going to provide more resources, more time, more talent, more energy to a greater cause. And so that's where I think I can rise up, is the more people that I can connect with, the more people that I can talk to, we're going to come out, as I say, all boats rise. We'll find more resources, more opportunities to engage in things that we care about in this community. So I'm just going to let whatever powers that be are out there show me those moments where I know it's time to lean in. And it happens. It always does.
It always does.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this has been surprisingly. I always have such wonderful conversations, but you moved me to my core multiple times, and I think like I don't know if you can feel it. Like I'm really so grateful. My heart is full. My cup is full. And not just because I've had a great conversation, but I feel like I'm in the presence of such a beautiful human being. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for sharing who you are and some of your work with us, and really inspiring us to be our best selves.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm ready to run through a brick wall, so let's do this.
I love that. Oh, my beautiful humans, thank you so much. This is precisely why we have this TV show, why we have this podcast, why we have these remarkable guests. They are the reflection of this uh, conversation around being of service. So if we can leave you in anything, if you've heard, please make sure that you follow on the projects that Nick has talked about, all of the things that he's involved. Find ways that you can be of service. If you're not in this community, there's a community that you're in where you can say, how can I be of service to make this world a better place? I'm forever inspired and I think empowered to even more than usual be of service because of Nick. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, rise to more.